Hello, hello there. How you doing today? It's so good to meet you here on the show. My name is and this is The Melting Pot, your #1 call-in radio. And I want to tell you, welcome, welcome, welcome. The Melting Pot Show is a show that has come a long way, and we are here to discuss topical issues that affect immigrants emotionally, financially, and all-round life activities. On this show, we dissect problems and profile solutions that help immigrants generally. I am not alone today. I also have someone here with me, and she is the beautiful, delectable, wonderful Nches, all the way from Regina. Nches, how are you doing today, girl? What's going on? Oh my goodness, I think it has to be the weather. Something is wrong with the weather, you know. I had to fling my phone, do a lot of things today to get audio, but it's okay. So when you're ready in chairs, please let me know so that I'll just bring you back because you're looking so gorgeous today. All right, today we'll be discussing a wonderful topic, raising kids as an immigrant in the 21st century. We all know how tasking it can be. But before now, there were so many issues happening. Hi, girl. Welcome back. How's it going?
Hi, It's going good. Thank you, How are you today?
Awesome. I'm
I know.
good. I'm good. I'm
Oh my God.
awesome.
How was your
Yeah.
week? I'm sorry, my mic
It's,
was acting up earlier. How was your week?
it's okay. The week has been good. It happens all the time. So tell me, how has it been there in Regina?
It's been good. Weather has been holding well. So far, so good. So far, so good. It's been quiet this week, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Are you sure? You're talking about quietness. I heard in Regina that the LGBTQ community sued the government,
Yeah.
the Canadian government, you know, for supporting parents being involved in the choice of their children's pronouns. And I was wondering to myself, I can imagine suing my government back home for a lot of things that has been done to me.
I know,
I don't think
right?
anybody
I
can.
know, right?
Do
Imagine
you?
seeing your
Do
government
you
in
ever win
Nigeria.
the government?
Nobody will answer you.
Like,
Nobody will answer you. They will show
oh,
up.
nobody, you know, it's been a lot, and I'm just hoping. Well, we don't know how that is going to turn out, but good luck to them, anyways.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Anyways, good luck to them. So moving on, last week we discussed money palaver. This week we are discussing raising children in the 21st century, you know, parenting and everything. And it's school season. The children are going back to school.
Yay.
It's amazing.
Yay.
Yes, I can't say much yay because I know I have to wake up early in the morning, prepare lunch. You know, I'm screaming, come downstairs. Have you
Pack a
grabbed your bag?
backpack.
It's a lot. You know,
I
it's a
know.
lot, my
I
darling. But,
know.
you know, life must go on and we must do what we have
I
to do to
know.
give them the
Uh-huh.
best education ever. We have a guest on the show. I am not alone. And please, please do not forget to call. The call lines will be, the phone lines will be open at 7:15. And the numbers to call is 306-564-4961. I'll take that again. 306-564-4961. Let's go on a short break and our guest will be right with us. It's a secret. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chuck. I don't know what's going on here.
All right, welcome back. Today we have the delectable, the multi-talented Marina Iyeme Eteng. She is a HR consultant and the pro in content creating. She's a
Yay,
content creator.
yay.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna come for tutorial because when I see you, I'm like, girl, how do you do it? Marina, you are welcome. Please talk to
Welcome
us.
to
How
the
do you do
show,
this thing?
Marina.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Mm.
Thank you
It's
very
good to
much.
have you
Always
back
such
on
an
the show
honor to
again.
be here. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be back.
Yeah.
How do I do it? I cannot tell you that I know. Some days I feel like I know what I'm doing. Half the time I don't know what I'm doing. I just wing it somehow.
You just
But
wing it.
it's a lot. It is a lot
Yeah.
of work, But I
The
don't know.
results are good though. Even when you're winging it, it
I'm
doesn't
glad.
show. It doesn't
I'm
have.
happy.
Can't see. So the
I'm
No.
results,
happy.
the results are good.
Yeah, because they say you shouldn't look like what you've been through, right? So I totally understand.
No,
You don't look like it. You don't
no,
look like it's stressful. You
absolutely
look,
not.
you make it seem so easy, huh? I'm coming for tutorials. I'm telling you, I have to do it now, Marina. Moving on, we had this the part one of this topic, and now this is the part two. And we want you to, because we had so many reactions, and people were like, they really want to understand some things. So we had lots of questions, and we are going to be, dissecting those questions, breaking them down in simple terms, like you've always done. And please feel free to bamboozle us, tell us what we need to do, because I am a novice right now. You're teaching me, I'm learning from you. Okay? Now, first off, given that we are starting school, the school session is here, it cannot be avoided, and we are getting closer to the winter season and everything. As a new immigrant, given that you're new and you have a child that is in school, going to a new class, going to a new school, what are those questions that you should be asking the teachers and the school management? What are those important questions to ask?
Okay, in my typical fashion, I am my own guinea pig. So I always use myself, my personal experiences, the things that I have done at times like this. So I have only changed school for my kids once, all the times that I've lived here. The initial school that my children went to when I first moved here, it was just my son, and he was going into pre-K. There are only very few questions you can ask when the child is just going to arrange blocks together, put their hand inside paint and put it on paper. Like, there's no answer, there's no question there. Like, they're too young to even understand anything. So I've not really have course at that time to ask any serious question. But the times my kids were changing school, my son was going into grade 5 and my daughter was going into grade 3. So they were a little more aware at that time, and it was the right time to ask questions. And the fact that it before had provided some kind of foundation for me from my experience with the other school. I now knew the questions to ask in this new school to say, how do you guys do this? And the questions that I asked, a lot of them, like I did a walkthrough at the school, did like a tour to say, show me where's their class going to be, like what are the common areas, like the library, do they have places where they go and have like downtime? If I don't want to do my work in class because I'm going to be distracted, are there like areas where the kids can take their work to go and do there for some more peace and quiet? And then I asked questions about how does the school tackle things like bullying, like discrimination? Do they have policies in place that govern what the response would be if there's any report of bullying and discrimination? And thankfully, the response that I got at that time was that the school had a zero tolerance policy for discrimination, for bullying, no hands-on. So you can't have children who have an argument and one person puts their hand on the other person. It was zero tolerance for that. So those were the kind of things I wanted to know. I also wanted to know the teachers, like what was their communication style with parents, up to some kind of mischief or whatever it is that they want to communicate to the parents. Like, how do they do that? What is the expectation? Like, when something is wrong, do they expect that the parent will be able to? At what point is the parent involved? All of those questions I asked, and I was satisfied with the answers that I got, because everything was just the way I would have loved it to be. Parents involved right from the get-go, so that I can reinforce what it is that they are saying in school. So we're speaking the same language. If we're trying to correct a behavior, the school is doing what they have to do in the time that my child is in school. And when I'm at home, I can reinforce this is not acceptable, especially if it's something that maybe like a behavior that goes against our personal family values. I can reinforce it, tackle it from that end to say, no matter who else is doing this outside in our family, this is not acceptable behavior. So it's a partnership. That's how I see it. It's a partnership between the parents and the school. It's not us against them. It's not one or the other. I feel like I'm already I'm collecting fish from troubled waters because of all the drama that has been going on, this parents versus teachers. I cannot say I understand it, but I think it is a partnership. It is the teacher is responsible to an extent, the parent is responsible to an extent. Because I look at a child, and a child is like a seed. A seed is only going to flourish depending on the environment that that seed is in. So my family is a seed. What happens inside my house is an environment. So my job as the parent is to create an environment that enables the child to thrive, that enables the child to be able to bear good fruit. The school is also an environment where the teacher and the policies and all the things that happen in the school play a role in the kind of fruit that my child is going to bear there. So it might be school is one arm of the tree, my house is the other arm of the tree. But at the end of the day, the goal is to make sure that the child is producing consistent fruit, consistent good fruit. So they are not one person in school and a different person at home. So if you think about it that way, it will put in perspective what your expectations of the school should be. So if you're not doing your work as a parent at home, a teacher is not going to fix that. They are teachers, not magicians. And bear in mind that there are 20, depending on the class size in the class, there's only so much a teacher can invest in your child alone. So you have to do the work. The teacher is going to build off of what you give them, and that's going to be reflective of what is already happening inside your house. So yeah, that's kind of where my head is at. As we progress in the conversation, I'll give you more practical things that I have done to manage that and manage that process for my child and for the teacher as well.
Okay, thank you so much. That's moving on now. I mean, that's a detailed answer. I can't wait for the tips because I'm here with my pen and paper to write a lot. Okay, now back home, given that we had instances where children stayed in school for 8 hours long, right? Then we now move to a new country and we realize that a child cannot attend school until they are 5 years old. And if they should attend before 5 years old, they have to stay, say, 3 hours at school or, not the usual 8 hours that we are used to. Now, my question, as an immigrant who just arrived, how do you adjust to this new form of, how do you make this new system work for you? You just arrived. How can it be done with ease? How can you ease into the educational system?
That was one of the first shockers that I had to deal with. Like, how do you say a child should go to school for 3 hours? Like, before I drive back to my house, it's time for pickup. Like, why can I even say, let me drop them and go and rest more? Now it's time to pick them up again. So I struggled with that for a bit because my son started from pre-K where he had to be in school for like 3 hours a day. The benefit of that is he would mix with other kids his age, learn social skills, and all that. But for a parent, it was a bit of a nightmare, if I'm going to be honest, because the timing was off. So we had to consider daycare as the alternative. We had to consider daycare. So I found a daycare that would take them to school, or the school bus would pick them from daycare. The school bus would drop them at daycare, and all I had to do was drop them at daycare and pick them up at the end of the day. That's an expensive option. For a newcomer who's just coming, you're trying to settle in, there are not a lot of options, unfortunately. There are not a lot of options. You're either going to just make do with the 3 hours, or you're going to consider alternative childcare arrangement like I have done. Now, this was pre-COVID, where everybody had to work from home, from the office, right? Now, I think it has some semblance of ease. It's a little easier now for parents who are working from home. It then becomes easier for you to use maybe like your break time to dash in to do the pickup if you still want to do convenient arrangement. But now, with parents working from home, I find that there's a little more ease when it comes to childcare arrangements for the children. Like, for my kids then, like when my kids are home now, I know that if you give them what they need, if they're well fed, they have something to entertain them, they don't bother me for work. So if you have kids who you can make that kind of arrangement as well, create an environment for them at home where they are comfortable, they're well fed, maybe you can get some semblance of sanity while you're doing your work and they're at home as well. So they're not completely unsupervised. I just think maybe COVID with remote work and hybrid work has made that a little easier for parents. But pre-COVID, it was not funny at all. Like, it was daycare or nothing, or one parent had to stay at home. And I don't know if that's a negotiable option right now, given the cost of everything. Like, two-income household is what's advised.
Okay, so on a lighter note, I would say there are some things that parents actually struggle with, and it's food packaging. Now, I know that there are parents back home, they will put rice, put stew, put a lot of things, package the food, heavy food. And sometimes these children don't eat this thing, they come back home and you're still like, why didn't you eat your food? And you're surprised. Now that we are here in a new country, we now realize that there are other options. There are other things that you can actually do, incorporate into your child's food. So please tell me, because these are questions that some of our, viewers asked. What kind of food can I give my child to school? What is acceptable? Please tell me.
Just don't put. The teachers will not be happy with you. Just saying. They are not going to be happy with you if the child is going to be thinking of the whole class. Just
please,
don't do that.
You have to. There was a little bit of a glitch there. Can you repeat what you said again? Because I heard you, but they didn't hear you.
Just don't put stockfish and locust in. The teachers are not going to be happy. By the time the child opens the food and the aroma of the class changes, they are not going to be very happy. Okay. So what do I think it totally depends on the child. Like, what does your child eat? What do they like? What do they like? Like, for my kids, I struggled for a while because at some point it was like both of them were developing different tastes in stuff. So you cannot pack the same thing for two of them. We struggled with that for a bit, but I feel like my husband has a better grip on this than I do. So he has taken on that off me. He's a little more patient. He's a little more, when it comes to understanding and speaking the language that each child understands, that's a very strong point for him. So I lean on him for that. For food, we go with what they like. What do they like? Are there other ways that you can make regular food more interesting? Like, if you, instead of boiling plain white rice and stew, can you put peas in the rice? Can you put carrots in the rice? Can you put sweet corn just to give you some color? If they say children eat with their eyes first, or adults eat with their eyes first, are there more interesting ways that you can make traditional? There are cutters now that you can use to, if you're going to cut like plantain, it doesn't cut it like plain, to give it like a crinkle cut, just something to make the food look a little nicer, look a little more appealing, and make it more interesting for the child to eat. So it's to work with what the child likes, work with what they will find interesting, and just okay.
Oh, okay. Because some children, their stomach, they love apple, for instance. They like something swallow, something that can go down the throat heavy. So are you advising that I give my child stuff like that? You know how it's the smell of it's not that fantastic.
As far as they'll be able to stay awake after lunch for the rest of the school day, that's fine.
All right, and cheers. So I think yeah. Okay, so we'll go on now because we're experiencing a little bit of glitch. Now, if you are wondering, what are these people discussing? We are talking about raising children, raising kids in the diaspora, in the abroad, as immigrants. These are things that we need to know about, entering into the school system, trying to, acclimatize with the way things are done, so that we don't come there and feel like, oh, we are aliens, okay? And Marina is here to help us out. Now, the phone lines are open, and the numbers to call are 306-564-4961. I'll take that again, 306-564-4961. Now, moving on, there was a question from one of our viewers, and she said that her child struggled with confidence. Why? Because sometimes children will miscall or misspell her child's name and mispronounce her child's name and stuff like that. Rachel asked this question, and she's asking from Regina. She wants to know if sometimes she feels she's not doing enough. So what are those steps to take? What can she do to help her child regain that confidence?
Okay, so is the lack of confidence simply because they don't spell the name, the general lack of the child is experiencing? Are you able to provide context to that?
So, yeah, actually, I tried to.
Misspelling of the name is part.
Yes, it's part of the problem. Misspelling and mispronunciation. So it's like the child doesn't like it and keeps complaining, right? So it's an issue for the child. How do you tackle this? What do you advise her to do for her child?
Okay. So I know that there are a couple of things that they doing? Like what I've seen in my kids' school, there are a couple of times where they have times where they do like class presentations, where you can do things like show and tell, where they say, come and tell us something interesting about yourself. It could be a project for that child. Just to say, my show and tell project, I'm going to be teaching the whole class how to pronounce my name. I'm going to be teaching the whole class how my name is spelled. This is what my name means. This is the origin of my name. This is the beauty. This is the story behind why I have the name. For it to school with that information, it means they have to know it. They have to understand their own names, understand the reason behind their names. If there's another reason why the child has a lack of confidence, we don't know. But what I think that parent can try is start to look for intentional ways to remind your child of who they are. Remind them of all the things that is going right with them. Rebuild the confidence. Because the truth is, there are components of the way we discipline or we raise children in Nigeria that may not be relevant here. And this issue of confidence, because when I was growing up, in my generation, we were told that when you're talking to an adult, you look down, you shake with your two hands, the handshake can be firm, or you'll be considered disrespectful. In this part of the world, the firm handshake, maintaining eye contact, even though I don't agree with this one, calling everybody by their first name, I never allow my kids address adults by their first name. There's always a miss, Mr., or whatever is applicable in front of the names, just to... It's still something I don't think is right. I don't think a 5-year-old should be addressing a full-grown adult by their first name, but it's a personal preference. Let me not digress. So all of those things create like a conflict for us when we first come here. When I went to school, I came to Canada as an adult. I had trouble addressing my lecturers in school by their first names. Because have you tried calling a lecturer by their first name? You are not going to graduate from that course. You'll be there for 10 years. Try it.
How dare
But for me, it was a major struggle. Like, I literally almost got into trouble before I agreed to address my lecturers by their first name. You know, so I'm just using all of these examples to show that there's almost always an inherent conflict when we come here, because what we were told was respect. You come here and you realize there's a lack of confidence. What the average Canadian will interpret what we respect is lack of confidence. You cannot be talking to people and not be able to hold eye contact. I work in recruiting. When I used to actively interview people, it's things like that we used to just contact, handshake wasn't firm, and all of those things to depict that the person may not necessarily be a confident person. So imagine me coming from Nigeria, very respectful young woman, walk into the room, I don't call them by their first name, I take them with my, not look at them in the eye because that's respect. But this is me on this side, marking myself XXX, because the person is looking at me and they're like, this is not a confident person. So we have to identify those ways where we assume it's respect, but we're selling lack of confidence in the package of respect to our children. For some of us, it is our children not being able to ask us questions, our children not being able to question some of the things that we see. If your child asks why, because I say so, it's not an appropriate answer. I'm shading myself in this one too because I've been guilty of that. You know, but I realize that because I say so, it's never going to be an appropriate answer. Some parents say, I don't want a child from me, but do you want a child who can question anything? Do you want your child to be able to question things? If your teenage son, grade 10, is in school and somebody hands him a cigarette in school, say, take, try this. In that context, do you want them to be able to say why? If somebody tells your daughter that, oh, why you dress like that? You can put a short skirt in your bag and when you come to school, you can change it so that you look more fashionable. Do you want them to be able to question that and say why? If your answer is yes, they will have to practice asking questions somewhere. And who is the guinea pig? We, the parents. We are the ones they will practice with. So if they cannot ask you why, just know that you're raising a child who may not be able to question anything outside. You know, so find the other things, find other ways to pump solid confidence in your child. Find odd ways where is this area something that I can improve on as a parent, just to remind this child of who you are. And the fact that somebody misspells your name does not do anything to your identity. It still talking, is still encouraging. It does not do anything to your identity that somebody misspells your name. You keep correcting. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, you're not, I'm guessing that this is a Nigerian name. I'm guessing that it's maybe not a name that the typical Caucasian person is used to and is able to pronounce, but they can learn it. You need to be patient enough to teach them and say, no, that my name is spelled. No, with the teachers, take it up. With the teachers, let them know that, okay, this thing is a concern for her. Her name is a thing of pride. It gives her a sense of pride when her name is pronounced correctly. So how do we do this so that you learn? Because the teachers have a role to play in that. They can correct it in class. So it's just talking and continue to encourage. And when there are opportunities to educate people, take advantage of it and teach them the right way to say your name.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marina. And this is the time for me to toot my horn a little bit, because when I saw this question, I was happy. I was like, oh, I'm going to sell my market. And this is it. So I actually wrote a book about this question, and it's titled Adventures of Chidubem. My son's name is Chidubem, by the way. And he did experience something like this, similar to what Rachel had asked. And when I saw the question, I was like, oh, okay, girl, you have to buy this book. And just like you said, we have to be patient to correct and teach them how to call your name, and how to, tell them about your name and how beautiful it is. So please, if you're looking for that book that will help your child succeed, Adventures of Chidubem is the book to buy, okay? Thank you. It's $20.
I'm coming to
now,
get my own autographed copy.
Thank you.
I want it signed.
Yes. Can't wait. So moving on, now that you've trashed that, the next question is going to be on discipline. But before we ask that, I would like us to go on a short break. And when we return, we'll take some calls and talk about discipline. Thank you. Stay tuned.
Did we talk? Did we?
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're just joining us, and for those who are still with us, we love you. Thank you for staying with us, okay? Next question for Marina. Marina, you know why I like to ask you questions, a lot of them, because you have a way of simplifying everything. I don't know, it's a natural gift. Do you take master classes for that simplicity of?
Yeah, I'll start from now. Yeah,
please, you should.
I'll give you this.
That's an idea. Thank you. Now, moving on to the next question. Let's talk about discipline. How do you discipline your children? What methods do you, take? What are those things you do to discipline your children?
Okay, so there's really no blanket answer for this. I think the discipline style that you use depends on the child. So I have 2 children, and I can tell you for free that the same discipline style will not work for 2 of my children, because both of them are different people. Like, they understand love differently. There's love language for children, you know? Yes, just the same way we have love. Yes, there's a book on it, the 5 love languages of kids. The same people who wrote the one for couples, they have a 5 love language for kids. So I read that book, and from understudying my children, understudying and getting to know them, I realized that love means different things to them, which means discipline will look differently for them. For my son, I can use them as examples. For my son, words of affirmation is very big for him and is very touchy. He likes to hug, he wants to cuddle and things like that. My daughter loves to words of affirmation, maybe not. She likes the acts of service, physical presence, just help me do stuff. So if I now decide that for this child who their primary love language is acts of service and this one whose primary love language is physical touch, I cannot punish them the same way. Initially, when we first came here, because my son likes to cuddle, he wants to be in your presence, I found that when I say, pick a part of the house and say, go to timeout, that was enough to get the job done. Enough to get him immediately to be sorry and cry and say, no, I don't want to be cut off from everybody else. Mommy, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. It would work. For my daughter, initially, when we moved here, the house we were living in at the time, the only part that was conducive or suitable to do timeout was in front of like a shelf where we would arrange shoes and some other things. It was safe, but that's the only place that was like you're cut off from the rest of people for you to take some time to think about what you have done. I will send my son there, 5 minutes, he's crying, he's sorry, he wants to come back, change of behavior, problem fixed. My daughter, on the other hand, you send her to that place for timeout, she will glide to the place, like hop and go to timeout. And you will hear humming. One particular day, I walked past and checked. The babe was trying out shoes, somewhere that's supposed to be in timeout, So that one didn't work.
She was
Timeout
making
did not work
lemonade.
for that guy.
She was
She was
making
just enjoying
lemonade out of
herself.
her
So I
lemons.
realized that what I thought was punishment for her, I just handed her cookies. As far as she's concerned, she's having fun. So that did not enable any change of character. It didn't change. But what I realized is that for my daughter, if I withhold privileges to say, I promise that we're going to do this thing, but look at what you have done anymore. You will need to take some time to think about what you have done. The problem fixes itself immediately. Withholding privileges, I have found, works like magic for both of them. I'm learning to find the balance, right? Because there's a place between withholding privileges and where it becomes too extreme. You must then make sure that the punishment is commercial offense, so that you're not using a sledgehammer to kill a fly. Sometimes we take our personal frustrations. You've had a long day, you don't want to talk, your child says something and you just snap. I've had those days myself. I've had those really long days where it's like everybody avoid. I literally know the days where everybody's avoiding me around this house. And then after a while, I have to come out and say, okay, everybody come out from hiding. Let's talk about this. We're building that environment where I'm not afraid to be vulnerable as a parent. I'm not afraid to be sorry. I'm not afraid to admit I don't know. Because more than half the time, I don't know what I'm doing. Don't tell anybody, but I don't know what I'm doing. We're just taking one day at a time and winging it as we go. Because this thing doesn't have manual. You can follow all the books, follow all the rules, follow everything. Now your children will do some days. My children do some things some days. I'm like, I'm so thankful God. My children are turning out right. Other days they will do it. I'm like, excuse me, who are your real parents? It cannot be me. It's not me. So it gets tough.
Yeah.
So discipline looks different every day. That's what I'm trying to say. It looks different every day, depending on the offense, depending on what is happening per time.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Now, what you've just talked about is similar to gentle parenting. But before we go there, hold that thought. We have a call. Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, caller.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm fine. Good evening. I love the topic for today. It's very apt, and I just wanted.
Sorry,
let me
please.
add my
Before you continue,
just more
can
like
you
a
tell us your
question.
name? Yeah, what's your name
Okay,
first
my
of
name
all,
is
and where are you
Ralph.
calling us from?
My name is Ralph.
Okay.
Ralph is the name.
Hi, Ralph.
Okay. Just a question. I just want to ask the panelists. Coming back from where we are. I'm a Nigerian. Coming from Nigeria, we have this stuff in Nigeria where we take our kids to extramural classes, extramural lessons. Coming here, I don't know if that they have any of such programs for kids, just for our kids, those that need those extra activities in terms of maybe homework and what have you. Is there anything like that that's in Canada that one can actually engage these children? So for follow up, so to speak. That's just the question I just want to ask. If there is any link or maybe any information on extramural classes for our kids so that they could keep them engaged. Where would they come from? We like, we do the things to the extreme. Those things want the kids to be active virtually in every in all areas, especially academically.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank you so much, Ralph. We really appreciate your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right,
Okay,
Marina, over to you. Yeah.
Okay, so there are a couple of options that you can consider. The most common one that I know of in Canada, and it's not just Canada, I think it's North America as well, is Kumon. Kumon provides extra help or extra, not necessarily for children that are struggling. It's basically just getting children to become masters when it comes to like math and reading. That's the two I know that they are involved in right now. I don't know about other ones. And then there are learning centers as well. I know that there's one other place in Saskatoon where they provide like the children going like a couple of times a week, the math, for like computer science, for like coding, for reading and things like that. So Kumon is the most common one that I know. My kids are in Kumon. How that works is they have math lessons that they do every day. There's no break. The only times that they go on break is a couple of days in the summer and a couple of days during Christmas. They have to do math work every day, and they time them. They are timed lessons, like you do it every day. The whole idea is to make them masters at mastering the concept of math. Be able to do math without needing a calculator, be able to do math without needing to write down 2 times 2. They just do in their head and they're becoming masters at it. So if you're very interested in that, that's definitely something to consider. Kumon is good. And there are a couple of other ones. I just can't remember the name right now. I know that when I was searching for this, I found a couple of other options, but this one was the most convenient one for my family. So Kumon is definitely one I would recommend anybody to look into.
I have a question. Yeah. It's a comment just following up on what our last caller had said. He had said something about how our kids are active. We had a guest we had a question from one of our viewers who was saying something who was reacting to one of the comments that one of our guests had spoken about in the last time we talked about this in the show. It was about tagging kids. The previous caller was saying about how our kids are active, So I wanted to ask, as an immigrant parent, when children go to school and knowing the context where we're coming from and how your kids behave, we come with this competitive spirit, we're coming about with this, eagerness. Our kids come eager, they're active, from the context of where we're coming from. So how do you as an immigrant parent deal with when you get to school, and because the teachers are not very familiar with the context where these kids are coming from, and they don't know how to do it, so they give it a name. So they find a name to give it. It may not necessarily be what it is, but because, again, like I said earlier, no context, right? So what do you as an immigrant parent, how do you as an immigrant parents deal with this tagging, when you go to school and the kids?
I do a lot of talking. Thankfully, the schools that my children have been in are schools where I have not been afraid to go to them and say, I have concerns in this area, I have concerns in this area, or just a heads up, my child is going to do this. When this happens, this is exactly what it means. How do you fight a tag when you don't know it's almost like, what is the title of your child? Who exactly is your child already? How then do you now know that they have been wrongly tagged if you don't know who the child is? Because sometimes these teachers are working with what is in front of them. The average African child is very active. And for them, if they're not used to seeing children come with that level of energy, the only other alternative they have is when a child is this active, it could be an indication of something else. That's
Marina,
what they know.
Hold that thought. We have a call, and we don't want to keep our caller waiting. I tell you, you have a lot to give out. Just wait. Yeah. Hello. How are you doing today?
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Please, what's your beautiful name?
My name is Doris, and I'm calling from Saskatoon.
Thank you, Doris. Nice to meet you. Shoot with your question.
Okay, so I have a comment and question. So my comment is just to add on to, I think the last caller was asking, and the guest talked about Kumon. I know that there are some coding centers, so if the kids are kind of interested in coding, they can try that as an alternative to learning something new and, extramural. Also, if the child is into music, they can explore that. There are music schools around town that they can go. They can even try dance. There are so many options out there. So if you go online and look for kids' activities in Saskatoon, you would see a widespread, and you can pick and choose what you prefer. And then another comment I wanted to make is, school starts on Tuesday, and as a parent, I know that usually the list, yes, tuition is free or school is free in Canada, but you have to buy school supplies. And as a parent, I've observed the trend. So the markers and then the door tanks and all those things they ask it the same time every year. And then the kids come back with sometimes so many of these markers not used. So I used to buy every section, I'll buy a fresh supply until someone told me, why are you wasting money? What you can do when they come back, let them just dump it somewhere. And then at the start of a new session, look for the ones that are still functional, put them in a Ziploc bag, and they can take it to school, and then you have saved money. So that's a comment for any parent there that want to explore that.
Awesome.
And then my question to our guest is, during the course of the show, I noticed that we've been talking about new migrants, but there are migrants that have been here since, yes, they've been here, but they can learn a thing or two from raising kids in the 21st century. And I want us to really talk about older kids. So those that are going into the university, if they are coming from Nigeria, let me put it, sorry, I hope I'm not talking too much, but let me give an example. A child that did WAEC and is coming to start off the university here, the pattern of learning is different. We are exam-based. You study, and you write a final exam, and it's 100 score, you do well, you're out the door. But here they do assignments upon assignments upon assignments. So how do you help that child to, navigate all of this? So that's my question to our guest. I don't know if she can be of help to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doris. We appreciate your question. All right, Marina, over to you.
Okay, so what do you want me to do? Like finish what we're talking about or take on Doris's question? Yeah. What's the preference?
I think we finish. So I think we should finish the conversation. Okay.
Well, which one works for you best, Marina?
You know what? I'm just going to touch a bit on Doris's question because I would like to take some time to finish up that thought. I will try not to forget it. But for Doris's question about older kids, I can totally relate. That's a very brilliant question. I have gone to school here, so I can 100% relate to how different it is from what we're used to. The schools here, the beautiful thing is there are resources that they provide to you to make that transition easier. Coming here, international student, for instance, most universities in Canada have like an international student center. Even polytechnics, whatever kind of education the student is taking, there are resources that are made specifically for international students. Understand that that's additional layer of adjustments in the country, you're adjusting to the weather, you're away from home, the loneliness, all of those things come together to impact how a student performs in school. Let's now say the student is not an international student. They've come here and it's a completely different learning style. The recommendation is for the student to pair up, body up with other students. There are body systems that some schools use where there will be group presentations, there will be class presentations, there are group assignments. You will find other students who are similar or are in the same situation with you. Body up, form reading partners, form study groups where the students who, if you find somebody in your class who seems to be doing well in one area, body up with them, especially if it's an area that you are struggling with. What you cannot do in that situation as a student is stay by yourself. and say, I don't know anybody here, so I'm just going to be on my own. That's the first recipe for failure. You will be setting yourself up for failure like that. Another thing that I thought was so strange, but it's an advantage with the way the schooling system is done here, is that students have access to their professors, for their lecturers. For area, you can go to the professor, you can go to the lecturer and say, I am struggling in this area. What additional help can be rendered to me? And they will point it out to you. I had a lecturer who told me that they would be willing to come into school on a day where there were not a lot of heavy classes, just to walk me through some of the areas that I was struggling with. That was offered to me in school. So all of these resources are available if you will take advantage of them. It is very different. It is very different. It can be a bit of a shocker. And sometimes first year, a lot of people are discouraged because when you're not doing well and you start to see failing grades, it will discourage you such that it will now be hard for you to bounce back from that. So don't isolate yourself in one particular area. Body up with other students. Find out what resources are available to you in your school. Take advantage of them. If you have to go to the professors in the particular courses that you're struggling, go to them and explain to them that this is different from what you know, where you're coming from is different, and you be open to make the adjustment. In Nigeria, you read your ability to repeat what you have been told, but here, the schooling system, you are your ability to apply what you have been told. So very different. And yeah, there's a lot of work to do, but as soon as you get into the rhythm of it, as soon as you get into the groove of it, you begin to see positive results. And that in itself can be very encouraging for any student. So please don't isolate yourself. That's the only thing I'll say. There are resources available in your school. Find them and take advantage of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. You're speaking to me now. I think I want to go to school now. I was like, I don't want to go to school. It's going to be hard. I'm tired of school. But now that you've said this, I think I want to go to school now. Maybe.
You're reconsidering.
I wish you all the best, Em. I wish you all the very best
in
the world.
Thank
you.
Now, yeah, back to what we were discussing.
The conversation of tagging. Okay, so I was saying that before you can say your child has been tagged, you need to be able to see and tell yourself, like, has your child been labeled wrongly? Is my question. Has your child been labeled wrongly? Because the truth is, our children can shock us. Children can shock you. Where you think like you know what your child is capable of, but one day you just realize that, yeah, actually, my child did this. It's not what I'm, but how do we nip this before it becomes a problem? So tagging in itself as the word, it's not always a negative thing, but I'm taking it that in the context of the way the question was asked, is that the child is being labeled wrongly. I can tell you how I tackled it. So when my child was in, maybe a couple of years ago, he was in grade 1 or grade 2, he always used to report all. He would not sit down in class. He would run around the class, basically break all the class rules. Yes. I know that my son he's active. He can play. When he gets into that groove of his playing, he does not hear anything anymore, does not hear instructions. What I realized was happening from asking questions, and just when I say, walk me through what your day was like, you say, oh, we're doing math in class. The questions were so easy. I could finish it in 5 minutes. So I found that when he finished the class that was meant to take 30 minutes, he would finish it in 5 minutes, and he had 25 free minutes to spare. That's why he had the time to be disturbing other people. That's why he had the time to run around the class. I would not listen to rules. So I told the teacher, I'm like, okay, let's partner in a way. We're going to tackle this somehow. So I bought a notebook, and I would write on Sunday evenings. My son and I would sit down and we would write for the whole week. Every page I would write. I would sit still in class. I would listen to the teacher. I would obey class rules. All the things that are expected of him during the day. We wrote that 5 different pages for every day of the week. And beside all of those rules, I will put a box. I told the teacher that every day he's going to bring this notebook to you at the end of the day. If he followed all these rules, please put a check mark beside the box. And for every day that he got 5 check marks in his boxes, he got a star on that page. For every week that he got 5 stars, there was a reward. Me and this my star and reward. It works for me, you guys.
Wow.
It totally works for me. I know I used an example like this last time we talked.
Yes, you did.
First of all, my son got a bit embarrassed that he had to take that book to the teacher every day to check his behavior. It also puts some kind of fear of the day I don't get a check mark beside this box, I know that there's a consequence coming. Because we talked about it. We agreed, me and him agreed that for every time that you do not follow these rules, let us agree together what should the punishment be. So it's not a case of I'm shocking you. You are already aware of the consequence. So if you choose to break these rules, it means you made a choice. You consciously decided that you wanted the consequence and we will follow through with it. So all of that, I think, gave him like a reset to say, nobody else is taking their book to their teacher for the teacher to check their behavior. So it kind of put him in a place of, I don't like this. I don't want this to continue. It took 3 weeks or less for that behavior to fix itself. 3 weeks. It was a partnership between me and the teacher. The teacher knew that when he brings that book, she has to put a check mark to say, yes, you behave. And it was not just school. I got another copy for daycare as well, because he would go to school, go to daycare, because I needed to compare that the behavior was consistent everywhere, and it was. And this behavior was consistent with what I saw at home. So I could not say my child was being labeled. The teacher was telling the truth. She was telling me something that was the same everywhere. So before we target labeling or target tagging, is it a lie? That's where I would ask parents to start from. If it is not a lie, you will be doing that child a disservice, just sitting down there and saying the teacher is tagging my child. No. The teacher is pointing out faulty behavior that you need to work on to correct. But if it is behavior that is not consistent with your child, it's not completely out of character. Like if today they come and tell me that my son walked up to somebody and he slapped the person, they started fighting, I'm going to say, check again. Because that is not behavior that has ever expressed itself anywhere else. So it goes back to knowing your child, going back to understand who exactly is your child. If I ask you as a parent, can you tell me, if I asked you to do, who is this child? Who exactly is your child? What do they like? What are their preferences? What's their leadership style? What's their personal preference? How many of us parents actually know this? I didn't know it until maybe like 2.5-ish years ago. I took training to go and say, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing in this parenting journey. Where should I start from? And I took formal training, paid money to go and learn, to say, how do I start to navigate these conversations with my children? And that training was a game changer. It totally changed the way I saw parenting, especially parenting children in this part of the world. Let me now tell you what I do. When my children are going back to school, last year, my child has some trouble in the school that he attended a couple of years ago before we changed. So when we changed to this new school, I had become armed with more information, knowing my children, just getting ahead of, in case you have plans to label my children, let me tell you who they are. So I wrote a manual. I wrote a user manual. Like, you know, when you buy a laptop and they say this is the manual, I wrote a manual for each of my children.
This is really detailed.
I wrote a manual.
You really take so much time. You are
my
really
God.
invested. You are really, really invested. You are really invested,
You know how
Marina.
the parents will take, the teachers will send that form to say, help me get to know your child. I don't know if you guys have seen that form before. They send a form home. I stapled the form to a binder because I had written a manual for each of my children. I put their pictures, put their names, like, this is how to handle, this is this product. I called it like a product. This product functions very well in environments that allows them to express themselves. If you are not sure, contact customer service. Me, I put my phone number there. I'm the customer service. I'm not joking. Seriously, I wrote a user's manual for each of my children and sent it to their teachers. So you would think twice as a teacher before you put a label on that kind of child, because you will know that this parent knows their child. This parent knows what they are doing. And at the end of the school year, I asked them, I'm like, did you find that what I said at the beginning of the school year was consistent with what you saw throughout the school year? It was. So guess what? Come Tuesday, they are going to take back another manual to their new class teacher to say, in this
It's like a product package.
Yes.
It's a product package. But I like it. I love it. I feel like these details are really important. You know, one has to be really invested in these children. You spoke about trainings and manuals. Can we get like cut soap for us now? Give us like,
You guys,
where did we
let me tell you
get
who my
us,
plug
where
is.
did we get it? Yes, give us your plug for the trainings, for the manuals.
Yes,
Can we
please.
get like templates
Let me
of this
write.
manual?
Let me tell you who my plug is. His name is Praise Fowowe. If you guys don't know Praise Fowowe, as a parent who is raising a 21st century child in diaspora, that's a good place to start.
Where do we
Praise
find
is,
Praise?
he's an African. Praise is on YouTube. You can find him on YouTube. He's on Instagram, life therapist. That's his Instagram handle. But you should
What's
check
his name,
his
please?
YouTube page.
Call it
Praise
again.
for
Come again.
Fowowe is Fowowe. That's the last name. First name is Praise. You should check. Yes, Fowowe.
Okay.
You should check YouTube page. He has these meetings that he does from time to time. There was one that happened today where they talk about the 21st century child, African values, sexual abuse or sexual education and things like that. There is so much free resources that Praise provides. A lot of people don't take advantage of it, and I don't know why. I feel like scales fell off my eyes when I started to listen to Praise, and I took that training through him. Me and Praise and my husband sat down together talking about our family values. What exactly do you want to hand down to your children? With like a creed for my family, our family goals, our values, our mission. So our children know these things. They know that in this family, our vision is this, our values is this. So wherever you go, these are the guiding principles that guide our nation. These are our values. This is our constitution. This is what guides us. So before my child will go out in public and just walk up to somebody and slap them, it's going to be hard for me to accept that first goal, because no, we have talked about all of this, our mission, this is our value, and that goes directly against what we have talked about at home. So a lot of work has to happen, guys. Parenting is hard work. Good parenting is hard work. Good parenting is hard work. And unless you drill down to understand those details, you're not going to be able to fight outside, because you don't even know what you are defending. So before you go to school to go and fight and say it's a lie, they have put a negative label on my child, can you confidently say that label is negative? Can you confidently say, no, that's not my child? So you have to know the child before you can go and fight. And when you then realize that the label is faulty, have a conversation with the teacher to say, actually, I noticed this, but from what I've seen from home, this child is an active child. If they have extra time, that's when they get up to mischief. So is there any other activity in class that you can give them? If you find that they finish work that is supposed to be for 40 minutes, if they finish it in 20 minutes, is there some way else we can repurpose the extra 20 minutes to make sure that they're channeling that energy into something else? Is there somewhere else that children who have finished their work can go? Are there other areas outside the class that this child can go to just go and sit down and wait for other people to finish so that they are not a distraction? It's having conversation. At the end of the day, like I said in the beginning, it's a partnership between the teacher and the parent. It's not us against them. It is us and them. So think about it like that, and just know that at the end of the day, it's the child. We all want what is best for our children. We all want what's in the best interest of our children. And emotional intelligence is needed in how we navigate this conversation. It's not everything that is balance boost. It's not everything that's fight. It's not everything that you do aggressively. Sometimes just stopping to even ask questions to understand the other perspective might give you an angle that you did not think was possible. That's the truth. Because these teachers are trained in a certain way, using a certain kind of children as their case study. That's all they know. The African child comes with their extra energy. That is outside the box for them. And it's not everybody who knows how to tackle that. That's where representation is important. If we have more teachers who have been trained outside of Canada, who see a wider range of children, they will be able to know, to say, as an African teacher, I can relate when an African child comes into the room with a lot of energy. So that's still a fight that we're still fighting, but representation is going to be maybe like the long-term solution to that. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to have these conversations, know your children, talk to them, help them understand that in this part of the world, some things people don't understand from the get-go. Help them understand. It's a lot of conversation and we will not stop talking. So that's what I would use to,
All right. So we're having a little bit of a glitch. Nches, we can't hear you, but once that is done, please let us know. So moving on to the next question. In this part of the world, parents are usually advised, like last time in part 1, you said parents should limit the screen time their children have. Now we are getting to winter. How do you advise parents to engage? What are those things they can engage their children? Are there outdoor activities in winter that we can use? Because it's only summer we go out. So tell us, what are those things that can be done to engage the children and, train away the
in the
taps?
winter?
What should we do?
Especially given the kind of summer, the kind of winters that we have in Saskatchewan, I can see how this can be limiting for parents who just don't like the outdoor. I don't like cold. I don't like the cold. So my first instinct is not to tilt towards something that will take me outside in the cold. But there are activities people do in the cold. There's a lot of sledding. There are a lot of hills that become snow where children can get in that, I've forgotten what they call those things, and slide down. I see that a lot when I'm driving on Circle Drive and I look the other way like, I don't know if I can be caught.
It's
this
fun.
winter we will try. You see, I'm going to try. That's the encouragement I needed. I'm going to try. So that's one thing you can do. Let outside of the house. And if you're concerned about keeping kids out in the cold, there are indoor like arcades where you can go, where they can play games, virtual reality, depending on what your options are. But for what I do, especially if you're trying to like cut costs, you don't want to go to those indoor arcades where you have to pay to do the activities, we try to incorporate family games or activities inside the house. So there's something that we do in my house. Right?
Sorry, my darling, real quick, we have a call. Your topic absolutely. Is always, we have a call. All right. Hello. Good evening. How are you doing today?
Hello. Yeah, my name is Uchechi. I'm just calling to appreciate you guys because I'm really enjoying this discussion. Yeah, I think that it would be really nice for us to have more African representation within the educational sector. It's something I've actually been thinking of. If we can have more like Nigerians who are teaching in the grade school, I think like it's really going to help our children to easily get integrated into the system and also like feel like they have a voice sometimes. I also appreciate the lady who said talked about the praise for, did you say for Wowe? I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm hoping you guys will put the link to his YouTube page, so that we can probably follow him. And I really do appreciate what she said, having well-defined values that our children are aware of, so that you can actually vouch for them wherever they are. And I think even that manual thing you talked about, when you present a manual to a teacher, I don't know what it is that the teacher will probably want to go at. Well, I don't think there'll be any room for that teacher to be able to go against anything, because it's already evident that this parent is very well informed about his or her child. So I just want to say in general that I really do appreciate this discussion. It's really, really been very informative and, encourage you guys.
Thank you so much.
Hello?
We appreciate your call, okay? Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. So if you guys can put up, the YouTube link for the praise guy, I would really appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do that. Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate your call.
I totally like I totally like the last comment she made to say when a student presents a manual to a teacher, they would, first of all, you're eliminating any room for confusion. You are eliminating any room for misjudgment, because if I've told you that when my child is unhappy, they retreat, they take some time, step back to calm down, because they know that they can get emotional, and the way they regulate their emotions is to take some time back to step back. How then are you going to confuse it if something has happened in the class and the child is sitting on their own? Are you going to then say they are antisocial? No, the person is just taking a step back to be able to regulate their emotions. That's exactly the idea of why I do that. Yeah. To let the teacher know that half the work has been done for you. Leave the parenting to me.
Yes, half. Yeah. Awesome. So please, let's conclude on what we were discussing: outdoor activities, winter.
Yes.
How to eliminate screen time.
So there's something we do in my family a week. We call it family time. On that day, there's no, we agree on what to do together. Recently, we've been doing it in a way that it's not TV. I find that when we use let's watch a movie together as a family to do family time, it doesn't really drive the idea of what we're trying to get. So now we find one thing that we can all cook together. A Nigerian recipe that maybe I teach them, if it's puff puff, if it's akara, just something Nigerian that we learn together. My children are around the counter. Okay, can I help you do this? Can I help you do that? We do that together and we use it to foster conversations. Okay. So what is it about this week that you liked the most? How do you like me as your mom? What are the things I do as your mother? Or what are the things I do as your father that you prefer that I do differently? Like, it's once a week we do that. Some days when we're not cooking together, we order something in. They like those days where where they get to decide what we order. That one is the fun. Yeah, it's pizza or it's chicken wings or something.
Pizza, it's chicken wings.
But basically, we have that time where we put away the screens. If we're going to play a board game, snake and ladder, or play cards, or play concentration, or just do something. So we have that day where everybody puts everything else aside. So if you call me on a Wednesday evening between 7 and 8, chances I will not pick because it's family time. You know, just me teaching my children that the world is busy. Us teaching our children that the world is busy, but this time is our time together as a family. We're dedicating this time to do something together. So we play a lot of games. We do, but we learn skills. Like sometimes I can weave my daughter's hair while we're at it and everybody else is just watching. Or sometimes it's just even teaching them how to fold laundry. So it's fun. We find a way to make it fun, to say these are creative ways you can fold a shirt. And then next time, guess who wants to practice? And before you know, we have practiced and used the full laundry basket to practice. So we're doing something together. They're also folding laundry, which is taking away some work for mom and dad. So at the end of the day, it's like using one stone to kill two birds. It's just finding creative ways, depending on the age of your children and the kind of things that they like. There's karate. We tried enrolling my kids in karate. It was indoor. Yes.
Oh wow.
We've tried basketball indoors. It was during winter. So of course those ones they'll use indoor gyms. So yeah, there are sporting activities if you want them to be physically active, like sporting activities that you can consider. So yeah, depending on the age of your children and what works and what is available where you are.
You can
like
tailor activities to feed them for you. Can tailor your activities to feed them. Awesome response, Marina. Thank you so much. There's so much enlightenment that is going on this show. It's like germs that are being dropped, and I'm not a parent yet, but I'm getting most of these things, and I'm really, I see how it makes sense because I live with my siblings and I see how they have raised their own kids and I see how some of these things can be applicable and practical. But let's talk about one of the let's talk about the elephant in the room. One of the issues that have been plaguing our province lately. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. But about this whole policy that was released by the government, yes, about pronouns use and how parents should be involved, and how we heard like 3 days ago, how like here in Regina, some people are suing the government, as regards this policy. What are your takes on it? What are your thoughts? Is it a conversation that you should have with your child? This policy, should you discuss it with your child? That's my first question.
Cheers. I'm one of those people who have been dragged online because of my take on this. And I'm not afraid. I'm really not afraid. When I heard that policy, first thing I did was take my time to go and read exactly what was said. What was the content of what the government was asking? And I read it. I'm like, I don't understand. What's the problem? Like, help me understand what the problem with this is. Like, as a parent, you have the option of withdrawing your child from education if you consider the content inappropriate for them. And then that's one of the things that was said, and that the teachers will now be required to inform parents if a child is going to be changing their pronouns in school. Changing pronouns to me is not just, my name is Marina, I want to be called Mary. That's a nickname, not a pronoun. Yeah. I identify as a heterosexual female, which means my pronouns are she and her.
Her.
If I decide to go to school as a student who is under the age of 16 and I say I want to now be referred to as he and him, that's not a nickname. It's a major decision. And so it's a major decision. So how then would a child who's a minor be allowed to make that kind of major decision without their parents? As a parent, I sign consent for my children to go swimming, for them to get on the school bus, for them to play instruments. My children are under the age of 12, which means I cannot leave them at home unsupervised. But for a decision as major as deciding to identify as a boy, even though you were born female, you leave me out of it. How does that make sense? So my take is that I agree with what the government has done. The counter arguments that I have heard, because I took time to read what the people who were dragging me were saying, I commented under what the government of Saskatchewan on Instagram, and some people built a mansion under the comments and called me all sorts of names. I got threats, private and publicly. Yes, people have been threatening me up till yesterday. I still got messages.
Really?
I think some of them clicked on my profile and saw my visibility and then checked my YouTube and saw that, okay, this person has a visibility online. So they decided that that's how they're going to threaten me, but will not be today. Anyway, the argument that I've been hearing was, oh, if your child feels safe, they will already tell you at home, so there's no reason for you to worry. It's for the people who are not safe at home. I'm like, this idea of pitting the home unsafe, school is safe. Is that everybody's reality, though? No. Is that everybody's reality? How about the people who are getting bullied in school by teachers? We teach children a lot, bullying, or when your classmate says something, go and report to the teacher. What if the teacher is the bully? Because that has been the experience of some immigrant parents. In what way is that now a safe place for that child? So if you want to pit one against the other, is there no middle ground, is my question. Is there no, why is this not being preached as a partnership? What is the way that parents and teachers can come together to support children who need that special kind of support? So I don't know. Unfortunately, it's a conversation that I am now having with my 10-year-olds to talk about gender identification and the world that we live in. It's unfortunate that I am going to have those kind of heavy conversations with children who should be left to be children. For the decisions that an adult makes, I have absolutely no problem with that. I am 100% pro do you. As an adult, you make your choices, you can take responsibility for those choices. When it comes to children who are minors, we do not give them a driver's license, we do not give them a voter's card, we do not recognize that they can stand for themselves, which is why they need parental consent and they need adult consent before they can do certain things. Why then is this conversation the only one that a child should be making without a parent's knowledge? I don't understand it. If I'm responsible for this child, like I can literally go to jail, leave a child who's under the age of 12 at home and they hurt themselves. I leave them alone unsupervised without an adult. I can literally go to jail for that. Why then is it okay for this child to be able to make that kind of decision, that kind of major decision, and you're looking to exclude me as the parent? So I'm only responsible to an extent. You know, so I agree. I totally agree that the parents should be left. If there are other reasons why children feel unsafe at home, that's a different conversation, and we should be tackling that differently. But for this one, I agree. Parents should be left involved.
Okay. So I have another question for you, Marina, and thank you. You feel like very passionate. I like your responses about this. We hear your responses, but I have another question. So why do you think that in this conversation about this particular policy, the voices against this policy are a little louder than the voices for this policy? Is it that people are not speaking up enough? You know, why?
I think one
why
of the
are
reasons,
people? Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why it appears that way is that there seems to be a lot of, would I say, subtle fear from people to speak up against it. Because all you have to do is just say, I don't agree, and you're getting cancelled everywhere. especially in this world where cancel culture is a thing. You can literally lose your job, you can lose endorsements, you can lose everything just because you are saying, I don't agree with this. Secondly, the voices against the policy, I found that most of the people who came for me, who were dragging me and calling me all sorts of names online, the ones that I checked out, they are not parents. Most of the people who are teaching us how to parent our children and tell us how unsafe our children are because we look at things differently are not parents, not adoptive, not birth parents. True. The people who agree with the policy typically are like, okay, the parent, I've not seen one parent, somebody who has been like, you have given birth to a child or you have adopted a child. I haven't seen one parent agree with that policy. I haven't. So the voices that are for are, yes, not as loud because we are busy people. We are parenting. We are parenting. We have a lot of work we're doing. It seems like the other side, they have a lot of time on their hands because how can one person just go on Instagram and be replying everybody 100 comments? Don't you have a job? How long is your break time that you're using to do all of this? You know,
and you have time to comment so much about it.
Absolutely. I find that the immigrant community, there's still the fear. There's still fear of what can I speak up against? Here's something I want all of us to understand, especially since this show is targeted at immigrants. I need you to understand that, especially for those of us who came here as economic migrants, this is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Canada did not do you a favor. There was a need that you came here to fill. You paid to come here. In case you don't remember, you paid to come here. You showed proof of funds for your entire family. You proved yourself. Canada is picking the best of the best in different countries to come here as skilled migrants, and you're one of them. Now, I understand that this might be different for the people who come here as protected people who were left their countries because of difficult situations. That's a different conversation. But for the majority of the people who have come here as skilled migrants, I want you to look at it like you came here to fill a void. You came here to meet a need. That way, it means you have a role to play in all of these conversations. This is home now. We cannot say it's not my business. I'm hustling. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to pay bills. These policies will cover your children. Eventually, it will come to your desk. So how we can get involved is to let our voices be heard. Do not be afraid. There is going to be power in numbers. The reason why it looks like the voices on the other side is loud is that there's a consistent theme. Everybody is saying the same thing. But among the immigrant communities, we still are divided along certain lines. There's the place of religion, there's the place of ethnicity and all of that. This is not the time to be worried about which religion is what. In this conversation, we should have one voice and everybody should be involved. Starting from your children's school, when they start to call for volunteers in the parent teachers committees or what they call those associations in the school, show up. That's where the implementation of these policies are made. That's how it is determined, how it will play out in your children's school. Show up in those meetings. When they call for volunteers, show up. I understand that it's tough. We're all just, you're hustling, you're trying to put food on the table. But at the end of the day, all of this hustling will amount to nothing if it affects our children negatively. It was an uncomfortable conversation for me to have. My children are 10 and 9. For me to start to talk to them about, okay, can you tell me what is it that will be happening with you that you are unable to tell me? Is there something going on with you that I need to know about? Why would I 9 years? My son was looking at me like, what's wrong with this one again? What are we dealing with here? Like, it was uncomfortable for me, but that's the position it puts me to say, am I missing something? How do you just let children be children? For an adult, you can take responsibility for your choices. Good. I have no problem with that. Like, I do work that is hinged on diversity and inclusion, but my understanding of inclusion is not belittling one because you're trying to enlarge another. That's not inclusion. That's bullying to conformity. And that's what it looks like is happening here. Everybody has to agree. Everybody has to see this thing the same way, or you get thrown those words like toxic, unsafe. I'm like, no, I'm asking questions. If I'm asking questions, can you patiently explain to me how this makes sense? I am asking a question. So if you don't have an answer to the question, the next thing is to throw these buzzwords like you are unsafe, you are not coming. But at the end of the day, nobody answered my question. I'm still confused.
I must also
Still
add that
confused.
I also got attacks as well online, and also immigrants were able to put out a petition to support what the educational minister,
The
had
policy
said.
to say we're retaining
Yes.
the policy. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So we totally agree with him and we say kudos to him. So, Marina, I don't want to say unfortunately, but every good thing must come to an
Must
end.
come to an end.
And we are getting to that point where the show has to come to an end. Okay, so I want to say a big thank you to you for coming on here and sharing your wisdom with us. Now, before you go, we know you have final words. What are those final words for us, for the parents? What do you have to say to us before you go?
Parents. Same thing I said the last time. Like, there's no manual. It is good parenting that is hard work. It's good parenting. The fact that you want to be a good parent is where you're required to put in all this extra work to make sure you're having conversations with your children. Please talk to your children. Please talk to your children. Please get to know them. Don't be afraid to unlearn the components of the culture where you're coming from that are no longer relevant here. Don't be afraid to unlearn them. Tell yourselves the truth. Tell yourselves the truth. If it's not working, if it's no longer relevant, unlearn it. Be open enough to relearn new ways to do it. Parenting is not the way our parents did it. Our children are going to be dealing with a new set of demons like we already see. The environment is not the same. The stressors are not the same. What I worried about as a child is small fry compared to what our children are going to be dealing with from now onward. So please talk to them. Understand their stressors. For the parents who have older children who are coming here, going into high school, just know that there will be the issue of identity. There will be identity crisis. They will struggle with being in class and seeing that there are visible differences between them and other children. That's why talking is important. Keep those lines of communication open. Not everything is going to be shouting. Not everything is going to be punishment. Sometimes just good old talking and listening. Not just talk to instruct. Let it be two-way. Let your children be able to talk and say how I feel about this and be open to accept. There are times when my children, I give them instructions and they're like, you know what, Mom, I thought about this and I think this is another way to do it. I'm like, you know what, fantastic, do it your way. I think that way is better. You are giving validity to their voice like that. The fact that you're the parent does not mean you're the one who knows everything. Be open to learn. And sometimes your children can be the teachers. Just something for parents to pay attention to. As we go, we will learn. As we go, we will learn. Be gracious with yourself as we keep learning in this process.
Thank you so much, Marina. You're such a delight to have on the show. I don't know, I don't mind having you any topic. We'll just tell Marina, can you please just come and bless us with your wisdom? Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to say a big thank you to our callers, Ralph, Uche, and Doris. Thank you for calling in. And for those who have tried to call in and couldn't reach, please try again next time, 7 p.m. next week, and we'll be here to take your calls. Thank you so much, and cheers. Any final words?
Thank you so much, today for today's show, and thank you so much, Marina. It's been really enlightening. Final words for me today would just be talk to your kids. Like she said, good parenting is hard work. I didn't even know this work was involved, but thank you for all the words of wisdom and we're learning. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, stay safe and please, please, please do the right thing always, okay? It costs nothing to be kind. All right, see you same time next week. From us at the Melting Pot, we say goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Bye.
Stay
Have
fresh.
a nice week, everyone. Cheers. Bye.
We love you.
And thank you,
Thank
Marina.
you.
Thanks. Bye now.
Yeah.